You are the winner. Yes, you are. How are you? How are you? How are you? It is day 3, and I am somewhat sad and very excited. I'm somewhat sad just because it's coming to an end, but I'm only somewhat sad because I want you going out there and getting clients and enrolling clients. And that's what we're going to really be capping our conversation off today with is how to get those clients enrolled so you also have the money in the bank. All right. So, um, excuse me, I'm going to quickly already make myself and ensure I'm hydrated. Make sure you're hydrated too. um, it's a beautiful fall day here. So the temperatures have come down and the humidity's gone, at least here in Atlanta. And so, but you still need to keep yourself hydrated, right? Yeah, yeah. All right. So we're going to be talking about enrollment. I'm so excited that you're here. If you have any particular questions in regards to enrollment, please let me know. Yes, Kate's asking, hydrated? Yes. Yes. Stay hydrated. And Kate is out there. Should you need anything, should you need the worksheet for today or any of the worksheets that we've sent out over the last couple of days, including the bonus worksheet we had sent out Monday regarding your Get Clients Revenue Goal Tracker, let her know and she will make sure that she gets that to you, okay? Now, day 1 and 2 all leads up to this, all right? We talked in day 1 about the big problem that you solve and giving you a lot of questions and a lot of things to consider to really ensure that you are firm and you are committed and you are targeting the right problem that you're best at solving for someone that someone's willing to pay you for. So go back if you didn't get an opportunity to be here live during that session. Go back to the guide section. They're now in the guide section, and you can check that particular session out about the big problem. I had also offered, because there was a whole series of questions that I had given you, and I get that sometimes we don't get them scribbled down fast enough. So should you need the list of questions that we used during that session, then please also reach out to Kate and ask her for that, and we'll get that to you. All right. So that was the big problem. The big problem then led into, all right, now that you understand the big problem, that gives you so much content around what it is that you need to message and communicate to your ideal client, whether it's a prospect or a client, in order to kind of pull them out and have them raise their hand and say, yes, I want to have a call with you at least, or I want to work with you. So we walked through a whole series of, we talked about pretty much the critical elements of a magnetic message versus just a message that you put out there that doesn't get a lot of traction or stickiness, as I call it. Then we walked through kind of how you need to look at the types of messages you could be putting out there, personal messages, messages that are about the pains and joys, not only you experience, but your clients experience, and how then you solve them. And then we talked about the value, the impact, and the results that you definitely want to be including in your messaging. So then your potential client has an idea of what they can expect from you, not just the how-to, how do you do what you do, but more so, because that's what they're after is results, more so is what kind of change or transformation or shift are you going to help me make in my life to solve that big problem that I have? And you get down to that big problem and then that marketing message that you need to send to them. And trust me when I say they're going to become very magnetic and they're going to raise their hand and want to talk with you. And that's what leads us to today's conversation, all about enrollment, because you can really have a good idea of what your big problem is that you solve, even your ideal client. And we talked briefly about how your big problem could also kind of put a spotlight on who your true ideal client is. So again, you can go back and watch that, as well as then the magnetic marketing messaging that we talked about yesterday is also in the guide section, okay? But you can have the big problem, the ideal client, the perfect marketing messages. But then if you all of a sudden get them on a call and I find that many of you, at least many of my clients, really struggle with, okay, now I have a call with them. What do I do? How do I do it? Like, how, and then what do I do to feel comfortable about getting to the point of that call to where I make the ask, as they call it. You ask for the sale. You ask them to do business with you. You ask if they're interested. You ask if they have the budget and the monies to invest. And that's where a good amount of you are frustrated, overwhelmed. You're struggling. You're struggling. And trust me, I've been there, done that. And for a good number of years before I sought out the help and the support in order to kind of work my way through it as well. So what I want to do is I want to, walk through specific things that you could be doing in order to really maximize those enrollment calls. All right. And we are going to have a Q&A section about anything that we've talked about over the last 3 days. So if you have any questions, any challenges that you're dealing with, continue to put them in the comment section throughout the session today. And we'll make sure that we block out some time before we end at the top of the hour to address those questions and challenges. All right. And also the big bonus today is I'll get a lot of requests. Bernadette, will you walk through my enrollment process with me? Will you actually, kind of pretend that you're a potential client? And if I were to kind of present to you my enrollment approach, can you then kind of give me tips and strategies and ideas of how to improve that? And I absolutely love doing that. I love doing that for my clients. So what I'm going to do as a bonus today is Kate will be collecting the names of those of you who are here. So this is a time that we definitely want to see your smiley face and your name. And StreamYard, as you probably know already, they require your permission to let us see your name and number, unless you are out on Facebook, where Kate is as well. And then she can actually see you interacting on Facebook directly. All right. But at the end of the session, we're going to draw one of those names, and you'll be offered a complimentary 90-minute enrollment call strategy session. And why it's 90 minutes, because people are like, are you nuts? You're giving this away for free? Because I want you to walk me through an actual enrollment call that you have, which could go 45 minutes to an hour, but then we need time to debrief and to talk, and for me to give you tips and strategies and help you put it back together again if you need anything to be restructured. All right. So that we're also going to have that before the end of the session. So a lot of great stuff is still coming. So let's break down what we're going to talk about today. All right. Again, it's all about enrollment. We're going to talk about the do's and the don'ts of what you should or shouldn't do during an enrollment call, even during the planning of an enrollment call. All right. The do's and the don'ts. We're then going to talk about what you need to always keep in mind, when collaborating with a potential client. And this will also pertain. Hi, Rainey. How are you? 3 curious little ones. Hi, little ones. I know you're there. Hi. So what I want you to be thinking about is what do you need to keep in mind when you're collaborating with potential clients? But we often forget that our current clients are also potential extended clients. You're not in this game for like a 3-month engagement. You're not in the game for even a 6-month engagement. As I've mentioned to you multiple times, my average is about 3 to 4 years, but I've had clients since 2016, and I've had clients since 2006. So your objective too is to understand throughout your engagement with a client, okay, where's the next step? Where's the next stage? Where's the next opportunity that they want to be pursuing, that they need your help in? All right. So anything that we talk about today from an enrollment perspective, you can even apply to when maybe you're having a end of engagement. Some people call it graduation. Some people call it a closeout call. I would never call it that, by the way. But I would look at it as merely, all right, we're going to assess where we've been, where we are, and where you're going, and determine next steps. Okay, so you can apply everything that we're going to be talking about even to that. Okay, then we're going to walk through the 5 P's of enrollment, and more so the 5 P's of maximizing your enrollment so you get clients. All right, and if you apply these 5 P's to your enrollment process, trust me when I say your success level will increase greatly. Okay. Now I see that there might be some people that don't have the handout, so I see Kate's taking care of that. But I just wanted to throw out there one more time that if you need it, reach out to Kate. Kate, smile and comment or react for a chance at 90 Minutes with Bernadette. Yes, 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 yes. All right. Now, excuse me. I have a feeling I've been talking so much this week. I have a feeling I'm going to have to take a lot of water breaks. So take a water break with me, all right? Because especially as I get excited is when all that starts kind of coming up. All right, so I've been using the term enrollment call. You may call it a discovery call, a strategy call. Bottom line, it's a sales call. Okay, no matter what term you put on getting someone on a call to then learn about them and convert them into a client, that is, in the terminology for today, let's call it an enrollment call. All right. Now, this is not a coaching call. So many coaches, consultants will provide a complimentary coaching call so someone can get familiar with kind of how you do what you do. All right. And the intention there should not be that you're necessarily selling them at the end. Because if you're offering like the 90-minute enrollment call that I'm offering for today's session, I would not be presenting to you at the end of that call my offer. This is a complimentary coaching call that I'm providing you. All right. I personally feel, other coaches do not, and I've been, critiqued on it and advised on it, but other coaches feel like, no, that's an opportunity for you to also sell. But I really see, and I want the difference between if I'm offering you a complimentary coaching call, trust me when I say, your coaches, your consultants, your service providers, trust me when I say, there is an agenda there. There's an objective there. I have a goal of demonstrating to you how I deliver my coaching, the quality of my coaching, the quality of my expertise and my experience, and the methodologies and the approaches and the strategies that I use. So there is a goal and objective in regards to getting someone to then want to engage me. But there's also times when you just don't need to be that in the face of somebody. All right. You should be being able to demonstrate in that complimentary call. Now I'm talking a coaching call, a complimentary call, and that person, being able to say, I like this person. I like their approach. I like their style. I like how we connect and relate. And therefore I want to talk with them about, furthering. Now I could follow up with them and say afterwards, what did you think of that call? Did you gain benefit? And is there anything more that you think that we could do together? But during a coaching call, a complimentary coaching call, I believe that should not be set up with a pitch at the end of it. Now, an enrollment call, you make very clear. An enrollment call is when you're making it very clear that, yes, you're going to be getting on a call and we're going to see if there's a fit between what I offer, who I am, how I deliver it, and whether or not it's something that you need that you think can solve your problem. Okay, going back to the big problem. So there's definitely a delineation between those two things, and we won't get into any further about that. If you need to, Kate can always put up the opportunity for you to talk to me about it on a Powerhouse session, and I can kind of answer that in more depth for you. Okay. Kate, agreed. My credibility relies on my prospect telling themselves and others that the call was what I offered, whether coaching or an enrollment conversation. Yes, I mean, I'm going to leave it at that just so we can get into enrollment. Okay. Excuse me. So I want to walk through some do's and don'ts overall when it comes to enrolling. And again, we're coming at it as coaches, consultants, and service providers, serving the other person to really learn and understand what it is that they need. Because what I failed to share with you is that your enrollment calls, they serve two purposes. Okay, your sales calls, enrollment calls, discovery calls, whatever you might call them, they serve two purposes. One purpose is for you to learn, like I mentioned, everything that you can about that individual's, what I always say is their goals, their opportunities, their challenges, their limiting beliefs, what's getting in their way, which could be challenges or limiting beliefs. But you're looking to get to know them in as much, detail as possible to then determine if you have a solution to their problem. All right. And then your other objective for that call is to serve them. But that's where the delineation is between, it's not a coaching call to where you're solving the problem right then and there. I would even suggest to you that it's not where you're even giving them tips and techniques and strategies on anything that they bring up to you. But you're serving them in such a way that you're asking all kinds of questions. So then you can serve them by presenting how it is you can solve the problem for them. Okay? Does that make sense? So that's how, being a coaching call versus an enrollment call, how those two things separate. So going back to the do's and the don'ts. So in your enrollment call, you want to ask question after question after question after question after question after question. Okay? What you don't want to do, because we're going to go between do's and don'ts, what you don't want to do is you don't want to be the one doing all the talking. So you ask the question and then you let that person purge or reveal or uncover anything and everything that you need to understand where they're at. Now, you also have a degree of facilitation here. If all of a sudden they start veering off to Timbuktu, totally off subject, you need to bring them back to that question that you had asked. All right. But your job is to ask a lot of questions. That's the do. And don't do a lot of the talking. You want them revealing what it is. So then you can determine if you have something to help them. And if so, what it is, how it is, so forth and so on. All right. The other thing is you really want to work at discovering their story. And what I mean by that is everyone has a story. We've been on this earth for any amount of time. We have a story in us. All right. Now, again, you have to be careful here because you don't want it to veer off into all of a sudden they, start at age 3 and they're serially working their way up. And trust me when I say I've had people do that. And your job is going to be to kind of, bring them forward and put them in the spot that you want them in, meaning headspace. So then they can share their story, of which then has the impact to the problem that they are coming to you to hopefully solve for them. All right. You don't need to tell yours. This isn't a time for you to be sharing your story. Now you might make a comment here and there. Oh, I get that. Or you know what? One of my clients has dealt with that. You can make comments and insert things along the way, but this is not a time for you to then share, at least up front, what your story is. Okay. This is their time to tell their story. And keep in mind too, this is the time to prove, like we talked about yesterday, that you're listening, that you're looking to really understand them, that you're very interested in curious about who they are and what makes them tick. Okay. So let them tell your story. Don't tell yours. And then serve them. And again, what I mean by serving them is not necessarily giving them tips and strategies right then and there. Serve them by listening. Serve them by letting them know that you understand. Here's a time where you repeat what it is, or mirror them, as many will call it, what it is that they're sharing with you. So again, like, know, trust, and do, like we talked about yesterday, this is the time where you can insert those comments about yourself or your clients or others that then help them to relate to you, but serve them in such the way that you're just not there with the idea in your head, like, oh, I just need to make this sale. I'm just going to be listening and jotting down notes just so I can evaluate whether or not I can help them and whether or not they're going to be a qualified client. This is the time to be present, to be there, to have heart, and to serve them. Okay. This is not the time, especially, and we're going to break down the enrollment call timeline that you should be using, how to actually block out that hour that you might have. We'll talk about that in a minute, but this is not the time to sell them. A good chunk of your enrollment call is to, gather information about them and learn their story. And then there's a specific time that you then want to sell them. Now, one way, and I'm going to insert this here, one thing that I'm often asked about is, well, Bernadette, if they bring up that they're having this issue, and if they ask me, like, do you have any ideas or tips of how I can take care of this? You're going to need to say things like, that might be uncomfortable to you at first, but you're going to need to say things like, well, that's what we could do when we work together. That's what we will do as we get into, in my case, our 90 days Get Clients Jumpstarter. We're going to be looking at A, B, C, and D. So it'll be a perfect opportunity for you to get all of those questions or concerns or issues addressed. And then you just move on. Okay? It's not, it's not being offensive. It's not shutting them down. It's just letting them know that, oh yeah, that will be, the things that we work on when we work together. Okay. You want to demonstrate kind of your style. And so if there's a time for you to be authentically you, this is it. And what I mean by that is, just like I just said, if you're in your head about the fact that, oh my gosh, I need clients, I need money in the door, I need to close this, I need to, get them to come on board with me. And therefore, you're really out there and not necessarily right here present with them. They're going to sniff it out. They're going to smell it, and they're going to know it. And therefore, any amount of time you spend after that is just going to be kind of a waste of your time. Actually, their time too, but they might actually just continue with it because they want to hear and learn, not necessarily about your sale. They might have already moved on and said, not for me. But whether or not you do, start sharing strategies and tips, and they can get something from that call. But this is your time to demonstrate, who you are as a coach, a consultant, your service provider, and you're in it, and you're, in with them, and you're demonstrating exactly what they can expect when they do write that check to work with you. All right. You don't want to, and I'm repeating this multiple times just to get the point across. You don't want to be solving their problems. This is not the call to solve their problems. And lastly, this is the time, though, that you do want to illustrate what you know, your expertise, your experience, your background. So again, as I mentioned about, you can insert things about how, what they're saying relates, that you can relate to it. I had a similar situation, 15 years ago that I dealt with, and that's how I came up with, this program that I'm offering you, without getting into all the details of it. You can demonstrate what you know and what your methodology and your approach is by inserting comments such as, and I'll use myself with my Shift to Riches formula, for instance. It's all mindset work. And you could, insert and say, well, I just love, what we're talking about, because within my Get Clients Jumpstarter, a big part of that is mindset. And therefore, I leverage my Shift to Riches formula with my clients to really help them discover, confront, and shed what is holding them back, what is keeping them from accomplishing their goals so they can create and accelerate those riches that they want in their life. So you're demonstrating what you know and what your expertise is, and even what your processes and procedures are, without it being, this is how I do it. Day 1, we're going to do this, and day 5, we're going to do this, and day 30, we're going to do this. You're just simply, because it's not the time, you're just simply sharing with them and inserting into the conversation what you know and how you go about things. All right. Excuse me. You don't, again, it's, you don't want to necessarily, and this is going to sound horrible, but you don't want to help them. And what I mean by that is you're not there to coach, solve problems, and give them the answers. You give them the how to. How many of you, give it with a show of hands, how many of you, since you are coaches, consultants, and service providers, but how many of you have had people, kind of get on these calls with you because all they really do want is more free advice and tips and strategies. And yet, even when you made it perfectly clear that you want to talk to them about your program and whether or not it's a good fit and all of that. So you have to be a really good facilitator to say, Kate's like, yes. You have to be a really good facilitator in that you have to, learn those phrases and those inserts that answer their question, but yet you're not all of a sudden giving away or giving them the how-to when the objective is for them to engage you professionally, and then you're willing to give them everything. Does that make sense? And I know sometimes that rubs people, but I want to help. And yes, we all want to help. That's why we do what we do. And yet at the same time, we need to recognize when people are just seeking, more of ourselves. And, it can get exhausting, but more of ourselves. We have to really recognize that they're not here to necessarily to learn about how they can actually invest in themselves by investing in you. They're just looking for more and more, free tips, advice, and strategies. All right. Rainy, it's not exactly the same, but I used to give away free printables. Don't do it anymore. Yeah, exactly. Because I bet, people see your artwork and they're just like, ooh, what if you were just to print off one of those and shoot it to me? And, but that's, you're an expert in what it is that you do for a reason, and what you do is worth someone making an investment. This is totally different, again, than that free coaching call. I'm just going to continue to say that so people aren't just like, geez, Bernadette, you're pretty harsh. No, I'm a business person. You are a business person. You're an entrepreneur. You're a CEO, and you deserve to be paid for the expertise that you have. So differentiate and do your free stuff, but then be sure that you're also then following up with, this is how I can help you. And this is the investment that it requires. And these are the results that I'm going to get you. Okay. You're in business to make money, or if not, it's a hobby, right? So you're in business to make money. So just make sure you're focused on that. Okay. All right. A few things I want you to keep in mind before we get into the 5 Ps. So we've talked about the do's and the don'ts. I even shared with you kind of the 2 key reasons for your enrollment calls. Then I want to give you some pointers on what you need to keep in mind during your enrollment calls, and then we'll get into the 5 Ps. I want you to keep in mind, because this is sales, and so many of you get in your head about selling. And so many of you get in your head, and this is when your limiting beliefs and your fears crop in. Okay, because you're like, oh my gosh, who would want to invest in me? Who would want to spend this much money with me? Who really is going to believe that I'm smart enough or good enough, or that I can solve their problems, or I can make the money, or whatever the case might be. This is when all of a sudden you're like, oh, but I don't want to come off like a, used car salesman. I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to be, aggressive. I don't want to have to get in their face. I don't want to be persistent in you sending them messages and following up with them and making phone calls to them and being, persistent, versus, in your face. And so many things come up for you. And if you want to, and I will consider this, and put this in the next time, but make notes as we're talking through this keep in mind section, especially if you have the workbook. But keep in mind, or make a notation of what's coming up for you when you do start thinking about selling your clients. Self-awareness is key. So just just consider that as we get in this conversation. So what I want you to keep in mind is you have a pain or no, I'm sorry, you have a solution to a pain or a problem that someone's having. It's why you're in business. You recognized, and we determined that on Tuesday. You recognize that you have a solution to a problem or a pain, desire or a need or a want that someone has. So right then and there, you would be doing a disservice. That's the second point I want to bring up. You are doing a disservice if you do not offer that. So your first keep in mind is that you have a solution to someone's pain, problem, desire, need, and want. And then secondly would be, if you do not go out and offer that with a price tag, you are doing a disservice to those individuals who have a problem that they want to solve. And you're all of a sudden over here going, I'm going to hold on to it for myself and I'm too scared to bring it up to you. Okay? So keep those two things in mind. The third thing would be despite your current situation, I want to be very careful here. Despite your current situation, what I mean by that is, say you've been in business for a long time and say you are just having a really difficult time. We're moving into October, right? It's been 9 months. We're moving into the 10th month of the year. Maybe you haven't gotten anywhere close to your revenue goals, which means your income goals, which means your ability to pay bills and feed yourself and maybe your family and to do whatever it is to do to survive, let alone thrive. So say your current state is a bit anxious and desperate and frustrated and overwhelmed. And therefore, this call is critical to you. You finally got an enrollment call on your calendar. It's critical for you. I need you, and it's funny because I was doing this right before we got on this call, despite the music we came in on. Before that, I Googled amp up music, on YouTube, just because I was standing here waiting to, get ready, and I wanted to amp myself up. So what I want you to do is, if you're in any kind of desperate, lacking, anxious, frustrated, insecure, scared state of being, I need you to let that go. I need you to shake it off, as Taylor Swift would say. And I need you to recognize that you don't need to be desperate, especially on an enrollment call. Because remember, enrollment calls is you serving, is you being able to present to someone a solution to a problem that you're learning that they have. And so you definitely need to kind of shake that off and recognize that as long as you're present and you're serving them and you have a solution to that problem that you're discovering, then, we'll get to kind of what happens at the end of this. But then you get to a point where, they will want to invest in you, or there's just some other objection you need to handle. But right now, I just want you to focus on, you do not need to be desperate as you go into an enrollment call. And you don't want to be, because that'll reek. Okay. I want you to also consider, the fourth point would be, I want you to also consider that and we're going to talk through the 5 Ps, but as you're working on prepping even for your enrollment call, let alone while you're on an enrollment call, words matter. Every word that comes out of your mouth while you're talking to this potential client is going to land on them. And so it's really important that you are very intentional, very conscious, and very, I guess, aware would be the same, but of the words that you are using and the words you choose to use. The words you choose to use are just as important because you can always switch up words, right? So words are definitely going to be definitely going to matter when you get into these calls. Because not only do you want to keep them at a high vibration, as people will call it, I don't necessarily use that word. It's like probably the first time I've ever have, but it's very relevant. But you also want to be demonstrating to them authority and confidence and expertise and experience and safety and security and privacy and confidentiality, because that's what they're looking for. That's what they need from you. They're over here, feeling like they're not on an island by themselves, dealing with whatever problem, need, desire, or want that they have. And all of a sudden you're coming along, woohoo! And they need to know that that is one that they can kind of open up, be vulnerable, be honest, be transparent, be safe with, be totally open where they know that it's in confidence, it's in privacy, it's in safety and security. All right. So you definitely want to pay attention to, as we move into the 5 Ps, you definitely want to pay attention to the words that you're using. All right. Anything so far from anybody? Excuse me. All right. As we move into the 5 Ps, and definitely you definitely will want to have your notepad and a pen, or if you do have the handout, but somewhere to just make a note of all of these. What the importance of the 5 Ps are is, I know many of you have heard the phrase, a confused mind doesn't buy. A confused mind doesn't buy. So, excuse me. So, you need to ensure that you are as tight as can be before, during, and after your enrollment call. And that's where the 5 Ps are going to come in for you. Okay. So the 5 Ps are this: plan, prepare, practice, present, and process. And you can use this for a good number of things, but that we're going to focus on enrollment right now. Plan, prepare, practice, present, and then process. All right. So plan. Just like any other meeting you might go into, or presentation you might do, or training you might do, the best thing you could do for yourself is to create an outline of what it is you want to accomplish on your enrollment call. And we're going to, use a standard hour. Could be shorter, could be longer. And you want to actually time it out. All right. Now, I even for today have my things timed out to ensure we finish on time. Okay. So that's what you want to do with your enrollment call, because more importantly, with an enrollment call, you want to make sure you save yourself time to get to the ask. You don't want to get off that call without the ask. Okay. So here's a standard time blocking that you can do for an hour enrollment call. Ready? All right. And I'm also going to give you kind of the talking points of what you would put into these time blocks. So you get on the call for 5 minutes, you're getting to know each other. And this is more social. This is more like, where you've been, where you been, and where do you live, and, what family or hobbies, or, things that are just light and airy. Remember, like, know, trust. So then they do with you. And if you didn't participate yesterday, then go to the guide section and pull down yesterday's. But 5 minutes. Now, it could go as fast as 2. You don't want it to go beyond 5. But whatever time less than 5 is beautiful, to just kind of open up the call, say hello, introduce each other, and then learn about each other kind of more socially before then you get into the meat of it. So the next would be 30 minutes, where this is the discovery period, where you're discovering everything about them, about their business, about their plans, about their opportunities, about their goals, about their challenges, about their limiting beliefs, about anything that you feel is going to be necessary for you to determine if there's a fit between the person in you, the problem in you, and the opportunity in you. So this is the time to really just excavate as much information from them as you can. But at the same time, in a period of time that is reasonable. Because trust me, these calls can go on for several hours if you allow them to. Now, but this is also the time that if all of a sudden you're into it and you have to go beyond 30 to really, not because they've been diverting or because they've been elaborating too much, but because there is something there and you're just haven't gotten to it yet, then then certainly, use your smarts and be flexible to go beyond the 30. But if it's because people are going all over the place, then you need to kind of rein that in and get down to the pointed questions. Because if they're all over the place in the first 15, 30 minutes, they're going to be all over the place for however much time you devote to it. So just make sure that you're facilitating very smartly through these time blocks. And then what you want to do after that 30 minutes, you want to take 5 minutes of yourself. You want to take 5 minutes to summarize your understanding, to walk through all the major points that you've been making note of. Maybe you're circling things, maybe you're highlighting things, maybe you're, putting side notes about something. Maybe you even have some open questions, and there'll be time for that as well. But after you really have a good understanding of their business, their problems, their plans, their opportunities, their goals, their limiting beliefs, what's getting in their way, you can then take some time to recap and make sure you have a clear understanding and that they can clarify anything that maybe you didn't, hear right or understand. Then you want to take the next 10 minutes, and you can even segue by saying, all right, anything else in regards to, did I miss anything? Is there anything more? Again, facilitating, you don't want to go into another 10 minutes of that. But if all of a sudden they say, well, there's this other thing and it's something relevant, then you allow it. If it's something that has nothing to do with whether or not you can help them, then you would say, well, let's, I think we have a good amount of information right now that we can work with. And therefore, let's, continue moving on. And you would also say, to go into this next 10 minutes, you can also say, so what I'd like to do is discuss with you my approach, my methodology, the way I work with my clients, and basically, from what I understand, your opportunities and challenges and goals are, how I could support you, how I can serve you. And you would take 10 minutes to do the how to. All right. Excuse me. And then there would be 10 minutes for any next steps, objections, and a wrap up. All right. So now we're getting closer to that time in that 10 minutes for the ask. Now, this is another place in time that 10 minutes could go over 10 minutes because of the fact that you're in it and you want to finish that discussion and handle any objections. And we'll talk about the fact that you could have handled objections earlier in the call. So now the time of 10 minutes should be sufficient to just simply segue into the ask. Okay. So 5 minutes social, 30 minutes deep dive discover, 10 minutes 5 minutes recap, another 10 minutes to discuss your process, the how to. You might even answer any additional questions that might come up here. 10 minutes to then discuss next steps, which means also the ask. All right. So then you move into prepare. This is where, going back to earlier, confidence is key. They want to see your authority. They want to see, kind of your confidence that they can kind of put themselves and invest in you, and you're going to take care of them. So you want to do your research about this person. Get online, get on LinkedIn, get on their social networks, get on their website, learn as much as you can before you're even on the call, because that also will save some time. And you can raise up what you might have learned that all of a sudden you already see where you might be able to help them. All right. You want to really create in this prepare section, you want to create a number of things so you're ready to go when you get on that call. Excuse me. Uh, you want to create a list of standard questions that you would use on any enrollment call. There's a whole slew of questions you're going to want to ask on an enrollment call. And then you're going to get kind of more specific the more you learn about them, of which questions you're going to ask. But make a list of all the questions you need to ask in order for you to understand whether or not you can help somebody. Okay. And then from there, you want to make a list of any personal stories or client stories you could be sharing. Personal or client stories you could be sharing with them. That way you can insert stories from your clients and yourself so they can relate with you. Then this is where the objections comes in. You want to up front right now, today, after you leave this call, sit down and make a list of all the objections you've ever received, friends have received, other coaches have received, that you can then come up with a response to in your own words and language and address them before they're even asked. So there's always the money, there's always I don't have time, there's always I have to talk to my partner, where you can insert commentary around that during your 30 minutes, even the 30, 40 minutes before you get to the end where an objection might come up. And that saves you, again, that time in that last 10-minute time block around the ask. Okay. And then you want to create multiple ways to ask so you're comfortable. And because again, this is where people, kind of get in their head. And we can certainly talk about this forever, but all I'm going to share with you is a few examples. Okay. So you can all of a sudden segue into saying, well, can I share with you how I've solved these problems for other people and the program that I have that's getting started in a couple of weeks that would be a great fit for you? Rarely are they going to say, no, don't share, right? They know getting on the call that you're going to present them an offer. They know it. All right. So the next one could be, if I could solve your problem for you, what would that be worth to you? Because now you're trying to get down to, what are they willing to invest in order to solve the problem? So you could simply say, if I could solve this problem for you, what would you be willing to pay? What you can even ask, what would the impact financially, quantifiably be on your life? I asked this to someone the other day and they said priceless. Well, you don't want priceless. You want them to quantify it. What is it specifically that I might save you in time? I might save you in health. I might save you in life duration. I might save you in, being able to get clients. I might be able to, save you in doing your social media, the spend that you have on your websites, whatever the case might be, get them to quantify it. How much would it be worth for you to solve this problem that you've had and haven't found a solution to yet? Okay. And so that's a way to then work into it, because then you could say, well, my 90-day Get Clients Jumpstarter program is only valued at X, Y, and Z. And therefore, in 90 days, you could be on your way to solving something you've been dealing with for months or years. And you just said how much that would be worth to you. Okay. So there's a number of ways that you could work your way in without sounding salesy, without, pitching. Did I just sound like I was pitching you? Did I, sound as if, and I'm modeling what my enrollment call would be with you, right? Because this is my enrollment process. It's not my script per se, but it's my enrollment process. So I'm modeling for you. And so let me know very honestly. Yeah, I feel like you're, being too assertive or selling me versus conversational. But there's so many ways that you can, work it. There's a couple of others I'll say real quickly. Are you ready today to solve this problem? Are you ready today to solve this problem that you've had for, da 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 da? Are you willing to invest in you? Have you ever invested in yourself? And do you agree that it's time for you to invest in yourself? Because then I'd like to share with you the specifics around my program. So there's a whole slew of ways you can go about working your way into the ask without sounding as if you're being that used car salesman. Now, from a practice perspective, okay, from a practice perspective, thank you, Marina. Marina saying great advice. Thank you, thank you, thank you. From a practice perspective, plain and simple, practice. Practice with yourself, practice with a friend, practice with your mate, practice with your dog, maybe not, but practice with a colleague or a peer. So many of you, especially in the Powerhouse Mavericks group, so many of you are connected, together, and you actually are supporting each other throughout your involvement, not only in Powerhouse Mavericks, but in other groups. Ask somebody, would you mind spending, an hour and a half with me on a call so I can walk through my enrollment process? Keep in mind, we're going to have a winner at the end of this session that will get an opportunity to get on a call with me to strictly go through your enrollment process as if you're enrolling me, so I can give you some feedback, okay? And that's what you would want from other people, okay? So practice, practice, practice is all I need to say in the practice. And then present. So here you're now finally getting on a call and presenting. But you are already planned out, you're prepared, you've practiced, so now you just need to do it. Kate is saying, Charlotte, my dog is my best practice partner. The wags enthusiastically throughout and goes to sleep if I drag on. That's hysterical. Yeah, Coco gets it as well. And I have actually 3 dogs in my house at the moment. They all get, everything that I'm doing myself. So, but practice. Okay, so presenting. So just be focused on this individual, learning as much as you can about this individual so you can figure out how you can serve them, not sell them, serve them. All right. Now, a couple of mechanics when it comes to your enrollment call: have a timer. If you need a timer to kind of, keep you on track and make sure that you stay where you want to stay, similar to my little thing here. Okay. You already have those objections. Recognize that you know what the objections are. So don't get in your head about them? You know what the objections are going to be because you have the same objections when someone comes and wants to offer you something. So don't get in your head about it. Just handle them. Just answer them. I don't have time. All right, but we would be meeting once, every couple months, or once every couple weeks for 30 minutes at a time. So is 30 minutes difficult for you to schedule into your week? That could then ensure that you're productive and focused and getting done what you need to get done the following week. Is 30 minutes really that much of a challenge? If so, I'd even like to, talk to you about where your time's being spent, because anyone should be able to carve out 30 minutes for personal development, for investing in themselves, for self-care. And as coaches, consultants, and service providers, that's what we all provide. Okay. So don't be afraid of the objections. They're going to come up. I can guarantee you they'll be there, and you just need to be able to handle them. Okay. And then, basically the last thing I want when it comes to actually doing the presenting is recognize if they to say no, or they blow you off, or they, or make every excuse in the world why they can't. It's not about you. It's not saying no to you. It's merely their challenge, their issue, their limiting belief. Maybe it's not the right time for them. Maybe they don't have the money. Maybe they haven't dealt with the fear and the pain that they're dealing with to the point where they're ready to take care of it. So it's not about you, the person. It may not even be about your program. It might be. It might not be a fit for them. And be okay with that, because there's tons of other fish in the sea, as they say. All right. Because when you get to the ask, you're going to get one of two things: yes, or it's not the right time. It's not the right fit. Don't look at it as a no. It just may not be the right fit. All right. And then afterwards, the process, the final P is you need to assess and process what worked, what didn't work, what will you change, what will you leave the same, what will you take out, what will you put in, whatever the case might be. But you can't just kind of, shut the book, it's a yes or it's a, not today. And you just can't let it just kind of disappear. You have to process it and really understand what it is you put into it and what actually you kind of landed up with. Good, bad, or indifferent. And there's really no bad. But if you get a client, woohoo, celebrate. If you gotta get back to you, get back to them. If you gotta, I have to talk to my partner, get back to them. If you gotta, it's not the right time, get back to them. There's nothing about that should be, intimidating or scary. It's just a step in the process. All right. So process it. Any questions, anything in regards to that? And then I want to, I just asked if we had any questions. Follow-up is my secret weapon. Follow-up is key. Follow-up is absolutely key. So to that point, I'm going to model my own and I'm going to share with you that on October 4th, we start our next 90-day jump starter. Now, this is totally focused on the last 90 days of the month and really is solely focused. It's stripped down from the accelerator program. This is a jump starter, and it strips down and solely focuses on you getting clients and money in the door by understanding the fundamentals of what it is that you're doing, why you're doing it, who you're doing it with, what are you solving, your marketing messages, the revenue goals and objectives and client goals that you have, truly your messaging, your sales process, your enrollment process. And then it definitely includes accountability along the way to ensure that you're taking action. Because I don't know about you, but there's a lot of programs out there that will, they're kind of self-paced. You do it online. You don't really have a coach that's there kind of saying, hey, Marina, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Why are you doing that? Congratulations. You need to amp up here. And this is solely focused on making sure that you have someone in your corner knowing specifically what you're doing in order to get clients in the door. All right. It's a combination, because I'm into hybrids. It's a combination of one-on-one with small group coaching. So I'm into the small group coaching, 8 people. I'm not into the 20 people, 50 people, 100 people. I don't want that for myself as a client. I'm not someone who wants to fight for attention with 20, 30, 50, 100 people. So it's 8 people. And between the one-on-one that you have every other week for 30 minutes and the group coaching every other week, you actually get weekly coaching from me, not from somebody else, from me regarding your Get Clients plan. Because that's what we're working on, is getting a plan in place and then you executing it so you get clients and money in the door before the end of the year leading into next year. There's monthly training. There's a private Facebook group. There's templates that you're going to use along the way. And then as a bonus, I offer 911 calls. And basically what that is if all of a sudden you have an emergency, you need me for a quick question or a quick idea, or maybe you need me to pull you off the cliff. Maybe you're going into an enrollment call and you're all stressed. You can 911 me. And if I'm not with a client, then I'm going to pick up the phone and call you and help you through whatever it is you're dealing with. So this program is really for those who are serious about getting clients and money in the door and that are ready to make an investment. And if so, then you can just simply go to tiny.cc/powerhouse session. Kate will put the link in below, and to have a conversation with me, to have an enrollment call with me. This is going to be a great way to end the year and make sure that you have everything in place before 2022. So just think, in 90 days, you could be in such a different place than where you are right now when it comes to getting clients. Okay. So Kate, there you go. Thank you very much for that. And then Kate, if you would, drum roll, please, before we end our 3-day Get Clients Jumpstarter. Do we have a winner of that 90-minute enrollment call strategy session? Who might it be? And I have our winner. All right, while she's working on that, anybody have any comments, any questions, anything that you need from me? Thank you so much for being part of the program. Thank you so much for, the last few days. The sessions will be up in the guide section until Sunday night. So if you need to go back to any of them, Reenie. Yay. I'll reach out to you and we'll be talking soon. And we'll get that taken care of. But if anybody needs me, reach out to Kate and she can get you on my schedule, but go to tiny.cc/powerhouse session and let's end the year with a bang, shall we? And again, thank you so much for being part of the 3-day Get Clients Jumpstarter. And I'll look forward to seeing you at a future program, which I'll be making those announcements soon, of future programs in October, in order to really get you going as the year rolls on. All right. Facebook not working. The page you were looking for cannot be found. Kate will get with you. Not sure who you are. I can only see Facebook users. Kate will get to you and make sure that you have everything that you need. All right, everybody. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.